All right, the NFL is insanely entertaining. I mean, we just saw Buffalo come back. What was it, 41-40 against the Ravens? They were down multiple scores. So Josh Allen, the 5.59 guy, get it done just a few hours after Brock Purdy and the 49ers got it done on the field right behind me. They played some hero ball and they won. And we've got a lot of content from this game. The article is up on the San Francisco Standard. Here you guys go. I got a little bit of an awkward angle. That's McCaffrey and Purdy. We got to look at this. The article up on the Standard, 49ers and Seattle, 17-13. I took a look inside the 49ers locker room after a gutsy, instant, classic win. So much to discuss. I think the biggest riser for the 49ers today, D. Winters. I just watched the replay for the first time while I was finishing the Bills Ravens game. D, 6 tackles, was all over the field today. We're going to break down his tape over the course of this coming week for sure, because he was impressive. That 49ers defense gave up only 3.2 yards per rush. But we talked about the big-time challenge ahead of San Francisco against the Seattle run game. They certainly were up for it today. In fact, I think that we've got to listen into Nick Bosa right now on Robert Saleh and the 49ers defense. Bosa with some good stuff after the game.
He's as good of a coach, defensive coach in the league. And when you could just feel the leading up to the game, how important this is to him. And he's trying to get everything perfect before we step out on the field so that everybody knows. And with a lot of young guys, like, he was a little nervous coming in. We all were. And just putting players in the best positions possible.
Did you sense some of those young guys' nerves? Did you do anything to try to calm them?
I mean, everybody's nervous in the NFL. First game, I get nervous. It's a high pressure business, and you got to go out and perform. People forget quick, so you got to go do your thing every single day, and it's the start of a good journey.
So the 49ers defense in this game, the first 3 third or fourth downs, they blitzed. And it's something that we just didn't see a whole lot of last year when Nick Sorensen was this team's defensive coordinator. We didn't see a whole lot of it when Steve Wilkes was the defensive coordinator. The blitzes that we do remember in that 2023 season were ones that failed, like the one in Minnesota toward the end of the first half when Jordan Addison scored that touchdown for the Vikings. It's not just about blitzing. It's about the timing of the blitzes, and it's about just the touch that the defensive coordinator deals with. And today, Robert Saleh had that and more. And the first blitz was 6 men, both linebackers, D. Winters and Fred Warner. And then he knew when to take the foot off the gas. Then there was a third down where he didn't blitz anybody, and it shell-shocked Sam Darnold into just going give-up throw, check down underneath. So hero ball on the defensive side. Obviously, it was Nick Bosa who sealed this game. We draw some parallels to the past with Nick Bosa sealing that game, the same side of the field near the same end zone as Dre Greenlaw against Jacob Hollister. But if we want to draw parallels, well, then we could do it with something like this. This is Jake Tonjes, obviously, with Dwight Clark. Now, I know a lot of people will say, oh, my God, this is smaller stakes. Yes, I get it. Smaller stakes. This was week 1. That on the left is the most famous play maybe in NFL history. But even if you go to the Brock Purdy scramble on this play, it was evocative of Joe Montana scrambling to his right against the Dallas Cowboys. He didn't have the wall in front of him, but Purdy was getting dragged down as he threw this pass. And Kyle Shanahan's quote about this play was also eerily similar. If you go to my article up on the San Francisco Standard, look at this, the new graphic. This is awesome. The headline right above Brock Purdy. But if you go to Kyle Shanahan's quote, I'm going to scroll down. Link to this is in the description. It's actually evocative of Bill Walsh's quote and how Bill Walsh would later describe the Montana to Clark play. When Brock was breaking the pocket, I couldn't see it at all, Shanahan said. I didn't know if he was throwing it away. I didn't know if it was a pick, but our guys on the sideline started cheering, so it ended well. You'll remember Montana when he threw that one to Dwight Clark. There's debate about whether he was trying to throw it away, and nobody really on the sideline knew where he was going with the football, but then Clark just skied out of nowhere and made the catch. So I get it. Smaller stakes for the picture at right, but still big stakes for the 49ers who are coming off of a 6-11 season. I can tell you when I went into that locker room, there was a definite sense of relief. Remember, they had blown 4 division games in the final minutes last year. So this is one that they get in the final minutes. You really reverse some of the, I don't want to call it a curse of last season, but you reverse some of the very negative vibes of 2024 with the way that they were able to pull this game out. Consider the 49ers' dominance in this game statistically. It really was impressive. I mean, they were 22 more plays. They ran 22 more plays than the Seattle Seahawks. There was nearly 150 more yards. They had 38 minutes of possession. Seattle only had 22. Yet at the end of the day, the 49ers had to make the plays in crunch time to win this football game. They had to make the huge plays, the gutsy ones, despite a lot going against them. And a lot of it was self-inflicted, but they ultimately were able to get this done. So the way I would summarize it is that the offense was impressive, yet incomplete and injured. Brock Purdy was working with a very limited group after George Kittle went down with a hamstring. Juwan Jennings, I wrote about that in this piece up on the San Francisco Standard. He got hurt with his shoulder. And, you know, what I wrote here is that reminders of every gutsy, grimy detail behind the 49ers 17-13 win over the Seahawks were scattered all about the visitors' relieved locker room. Lynch even pulled up a chair, John Lynch, the GM, next to Juwan Jennings. And Jennings was struggling to put on his jacket because his shoulder was hurt. And, you know, I just thought that was one of those moments where you saw in the locker room, like the 49ers went to battle and they were able to pull it out, but it came at a cost. It came with some bruises. And, you know, on the other side of the locker room, Fred Warner still had the scab on his nose after his chin strap had gotten jammed up in his nose. And he said that he fell on a cleat and it made him feel like he wanted to throw up. I mean, the 49ers battled to get this win. And you could tell that there's been a physical toll on San Francisco, but that's what it's like to open the game or open the season against the rival like Seattle. However, they did get it done. And, you know, we could talk a little bit about the offense. I say incomplete and injured. Well, Kittle probably going to be out for a little bit of time. Seems like Juwan Jennings possibly as well. They're still trying to sign Kendrick Bourne. Kyle Shanahan divulged that after the game today. So we'll see if Kendrick Bourne, who decided to sit out week 1 and evaluate his options, we'll see if the 49ers end up being an appealing enough option to sign on the dotted line this week. And maybe San Francisco will have an old friend aboard as they head to New Orleans next week. Now, let's look at the 49ers defense. And this is a big wow. This graphic, you might have caught it a little bit earlier. I snuck it up on the screen. This is from NFL Next Gen Stats. And you could see the big bold line right here that is running in between 4 and 5 yards. That's the league average distance. This is based on radar tracking or GPS tracking. This is the distance from the QB on average for each pass rusher. 4.57 yards is the average at the time of release. As you could see, every single 49ers primary pass rusher, highlighted by Nick Bosa, was much closer than the league average to Sam Darnold, the quarterback, over the course of this game. Bosa was 3.26 yards away. Michael Williams in his debut, 3.74 yards away. Bryce Huff, 3.75 yards away. Yetur Gross-Matos, 4 yards away. Still, even though he was the worst out of these 4 in this metric, much above league average. What this tells us is that the 49ers successfully constricted the pocket against Sam Darnold, who ended up with only 150 receiving yards. You know, up until that deep pass to JSN where he beat Renardo Green, Sam Darnold was hovering right at about 100 passing yards. So 150 total passing yards for Sam today. And again, you go back to this, I think a huge part of it was the pass rush that the 49ers delivered. Now, this is going to be huge for the defense this year. They blitzed plentifully to get to Darnold. The very first blitz with both Warner and D. Winters led to Bosa leveling Sam Darnold. Somehow that pass was complete. It bounced off of the right tackle and to the receiver. So the Seahawks got lucky there. But if the 49ers stop the run the way that they do today, consistently this season, 3.2 yards per carry for what we thought was going to be a really good Seahawks rushing attack. If that happens over the course of this season, they're going to have the platform to effectively rush the passer. You know, Bryce Huff right here, he's the third down, the pass down guy for San Francisco. He can rush with this speed that turns into power. Mykel Williams is really, it starts with power, length to power for Mykel Williams. And all those guys can really pair with Bosa, who on that first blitz was absolutely unleashed on a crazy stunt. Did you guys see Nick Bosa stunting inside while the 49ers brought both of those linebackers? I mean, the options when you have a good defensive coordinator and a good defensive line coach in Chris Kacerek are essentially endless. And we've seen this year after year with the 49ers, which is why I had high hopes for San Francisco's defense this season. Where I got the prediction on this game wrong was I didn't expect it to be as polished as it was today. Now, that being said, Seattle's breaking in a lot of new looks on the offensive line, new OC, new quarterback. So it could be that Seattle, their struggles also contributed to this. But I think that from the overarching look, the 49ers defense not only was much better than anybody expected today, but they were also much more mature. Like they grew up in front of people's eyes very quickly. Like I use Upton Stout as a great example. He was victimized twice in that first half, but he came back and he delivered for San Francisco in the second half with a big pass breakup. You also saw Marquise Siegel recover the fumble that was forced by Sam Okawanu. And, you know, they call Marquise Siegel the Sultan of Swarm, just like Malik Mustafa was last year. Swarm is the 49ers analytics metric for how close to the football is this guy. How much does he swarm to the ball? Mustafa does that at an extremely high level. That's what they loved about him coming out of college. And Marquise Siegel does that at an extremely high level. They loved that when he was coming out of Kansas State. If you swarm to the football, you are going to find yourself recovering fumbles. You're making your luck. You're going to find yourself in advantageous situations more often than not. And that's exactly what happened today. Okawanu had been working on punching the football out. He kind of felt the ball, he told me, as he was bringing down the ball carrier. So he ripped it out as he was trying to make that tackle. But then you got to recover it. And I don't think that fumble recoveries are pure luck. DeForest Buckner, for example, that guy would always recover a lot of fumbles. And I think it's because of a hustle, and I think it's because of a nose for the football. But it's, you know, mainly like the combo of those two is this desire, this energy that you have to bring as a defender. And Marquise Siegel definitely brings it. And that fumble recovery was a really, really big play in this game. And then there was another even bigger fumble recovery. It was Nick Bosa on that final drive of the game to seal it. Another massive 49ers win in Seattle, 4 straight. We're going to talk a little bit about hero ball in a second. First, we got to talk about the cringeworthy 49ers special teams performance. So Shanahan, at least he says they're not going to make a change at kicker. I mean, I don't know what to believe at this point. It's just the problem with Jake Moody, as everybody knows, all 49ers fans obviously know to the maddening pattern. This was the first time he had missed from inside 30. So now he's missing chip shots for the 49ers. And in the past, even when there had been big-time gaffes that have obviously hurt the 49ers in games, it seems that he's always come back and done something crazy. Like I'm talking about the Raiders game, right? He bounces back and does something crazy to renew the 49ers' belief in his talent. But now that he's missing from inside 30 yards, it's just a lot harder for the 49ers to continue to justify the possible ceiling here when the floor seems to be falling out. But I think that the problem is even larger than that. You talk about their special teams unit, which was the worst in the league last season. So they cleaned almost all of the house except for Moody, of course. But new coordinator, new operation, new long snapper, new holder. Some of the blockers are obviously different up front. But the block today from Julian Love, that wasn't Moody's fault. That was the operations fault. The left side of the line caved in. And, then there was some shaky stuff on kick coverage, and it just wasn't good all around for San Francisco today. Sky Moore muffed a punt, but then he was able to hop right back on it. I thought other than that, he actually looked decent for the 49ers. It's just that they were bad in every phase of special teams last year, and they're going to have to be better this year, obviously in multiple phases, but this game showed that the struggles still persist across many facets of that unit. So just tough for San Francisco. What else was tough here? There's George Kittle. He caught a first quarter touchdown, but then he left the game with the hamstring injury. That obviously opened things up for Jake Tonjes to deliver his heroics, but you saw how big of a part of the game plan George Kittle was in this football game. I mean, they were going to him early and often, the very first third down on the out pattern, and then it was another third down that Brock Purdy converted into a touchdown. Shortly thereafter, Kittle was hurt. That very obviously hamstrung, pun intended, the 49ers offense, and Jake Tonjes is a good player. Luke Farrell's a good player. Farrell had a big third down catch. That was impressive from Brock Purdy, but the 49ers offense is severely limited without 85 out on the football field, which shows you why they want another wide receiver in Kendrick Bourne, because Kittle is actually doing a lot of wide out type work. He did hurt his hamstring on a blocking play today. But speaking of hero ball, Brock Purdy, we know that he threw those 2 interceptions today. One came to Ernest Jones IV, the linebacker, and then the second one came to Josh Jobe, who's the third cornerback for the Seahawks. And interestingly enough, Kyle Shanahan didn't really place a whole lot of blame on Brock Purdy for both of those picks. I thought the second one Brock forced a little bit. The first one, actually, I fully tip my hat to Ernest Jones IV. It was an unusual play because he had dropped so far back because he didn't have to pick up Christian McCaffrey, who was picking up the blitz. You tip your hat to Mike McDonald. But listen to Kyle Shanahan talking about the interceptions that Brock Purdy threw in this football game.
I think so. I mean, I thought both of the guys made really good plays. Going, they ran a good blitz and took Christian out so that backer could really drop under it. I've seen Brock a lot of times lob that over the guy. The guy was deep, so you'd love to say check it down, but they ran a blitz, so Christian wasn't there. But I thought that guy made a hell of a play. I mean, obviously at the end of it, yeah, don't throw it, but that was a pretty good play by that guy. And the end to Ricky, that was man coverage. The guy was tight on him, but he gave Rick an opportunity, and I didn't have much problem with that. But I'd much rather, worst case scenario on all those, I always tell the receiver it should be offensive PI, not a pick. So hopefully Ricky can make sure that's not a pick next time.
So isn't that interesting? He blames Ricky Pearsall a little bit for the second one, saying that he should have fought Josh Jobe for the ball, and offensive pass interference would have been a better result for the 49ers. Ricky, what a game, though, outside of that, at least. 4 catches, 108 yards. And this is where the hero ball comes in. When the 49ers, because this was such a slog for San Francisco, right? The missed field goals, the interceptions were coming in. They might have been dominating the Seattle Seahawks statistically, but they weren't getting the points that they needed to. And the red zone was an issue without George Kittle, without Jawan Jennings there toward that end of the game. The Seahawks were playing good bend but don't break defense. The 49ers just needed to blow the top off of Seattle's unit, especially when the Seahawks were gambling so much against the run. The 49ers needed to play some hero ball. They needed to go out and make a gutsy play. Just like I talk about the guts that it took the 49ers to win this game. Fred Warner coming off the rough injury where he wanted to throw up and he was bleeding. And Jawan Jennings not able to put his jacket on at the end of the game. Trent Williams came back from a little bit of an injury. Just like I'm talking about all these things like the 49ers needed to do to win on this field in Seattle, they also needed to step up and just deliver some explosive plays, either in the open field or in the red zone. They needed to just push it through, blast through for a touchdown, regardless of whether or not Seattle's defense was in decent position to make that play. So that's exactly what they did. The Pearsall 45-yarder on the final drive actually came on a curl and go. Okay, so what happened on that play is that Pearsall on like the second or third play of the game had run a curl against Reek Woolen, the Seahawks defensive back. And the Seahawks had generally let a lot of the curl activity happen in front of them, and then they would crash subsequently harder over the course of the game onto the shorter curl routes. It became really, really apparent, and I even tweeted this about 5 minutes before the curl and go to Ricky Pearsall. I tweeted, hey, the 49ers are going to need to blow the top off on one of these plays. Seattle is starting to gamble too much on the 49ers underneath routes. But Mike McDonald and this Seattle defense is really good. So what you saw is the 49ers playing a really damn good defense with an intense play caller. If you watched any of Mike McDonald's press conferences this week, he knows the 49ers. Like this guy's impressive. He was on top of his stuff. He sensed that the 49ers needed to blow the top off of the defense too. So he backed up Reek Woolen. Like on the very play that the 49ers went deep to Ricky Pearsall, Woolen backed up. And, Pearsall lines up for San Francisco. We got to find the quote right here. Pearsall lines up, and even though he says we need to go deep one time, we need to hit somebody on a double move, they look at the defensive alignment for Seattle and they say, well, geez, like I don't know if we should run this. But at the line, instead of going conservative, the magnitude of the moment overrode any of that potential conservatism. Fortune does, after all, favor the bold. And Ricky said, we might as well run it. Trust your speed. Brock Purdy said, well, I might as well let it rip. I'm going to trust my arm. And on that play, even though Purdy faced a very high pressure rate in this game because the 49ers couldn't run the ball very well and Seattle was throwing a lot of disguised pressure at them that was successful today. Seattle front, you got to tip your cap to some of those guys. But even though that pressure was coming in, like 59% of the time, the highest pressure rate Purdy had faced in his career, Purdy got the protection he needed. Double move for Pearsall, got by Reek Woolen, and Purdy threw an absolute laser downfield. I mean, talk about guts, right, in that situation. Instead of just settling for the curl route that the Seahawks were giving the 49ers, Purdy went deep. And I don't want to hear from anybody ever again that Purdy can't throw deep or he can't throw outside the numbers, because that is an absolutely garbage take that was, again, for the 1,000th time, disproven in this football game. So anyway, that set up the Tonjes play. That set up right the marquee moment toward the end. And you want to talk about hero ball. Well, look to see. This is Reek Woolen again, the Seahawks cornerback. Look to see where Brock Purdy put that football. I mean, when he threw it, I thought it was going to be picked. But this is where you have to credit the 49ers for understanding the magnitude of the moment and the situation. You can't just sit there and throw the ball away. It was third down. You know what that would have done? It would have brought Jake Moody out to try another field goal. And you know what that would have meant? Well, special teams for the 49ers was cringe in this game. So instead, you play hero ball. You have to. If you want to win the football game, if you want to win here in Seattle, it is about being a hero. Like he needed to play hero ball there. People can complain about it all they want, but that's what the game called for. That's what the situation called for, both on the deep throw to Ricky Pearsall, also on the deep corner earlier to Pearsall. Purdy put it in a little tiny window, like placed it where it had to be on the deep corner. He found Luke Farrell on a fourth down, but that ended in a Jake Moody blocked field goal. They just had to take matters into their own hands in the red zone this time. And guess what? The 49ers did. Purdy to Jake Tonjes, touchdown. You know what we're going to call it? We're going to call it the Los Gatos leap for Jake Tonjes. He went to Los Gatos High School, then he went to Cal. Shout out to both of those institutions from a Stanford guy. And he hadn't caught a single pass in his NFL career up until today. And he caught 3 passes today, and the 49ers needed every one of them, including especially this one in the end zone. And he just ripped the ball away from Tariq Woolen. So Purdy realized rolling out like Montana in that 82 NFC championship game to his right, he realized he just needed to give his guy a chance, put the ball up, put some zip on the throw, and it was Jake Tonjes who just went up and wanted it more. He just went up and he got it. And what a monumental moment for him. I guess he was able to recover the football later. He did spike it amidst the mayhem. He was able to recover it. And that's going to be a nice memento for the tight end, Jake Tonjes, who with Kittle probably out, I'm just guessing, I'm speculating now, but Jake Tonjes is going to have a significant role for the 49ers moving forward. So, yes, the offense right now is not in its complete form. The 49ers need more weapons. They're down Ayuk. They're down Demarcus Robinson. They're down Kittle. They're down Jawan Jennings. But they somehow, some way got through this game. I mean, this is a battle. This was like war for the 49ers out there in Seattle. We could put this back up on the screen. You could go read the article on the San Francisco Standard. And I talk about the bruises, what it felt like in the locker room for the 49ers to just really get the 2024 taste out of their mouths. You blow 4 of these games in the division in 2024. The last thing you want to do is statistically dominate, but blow another one to open 2025. The schedule might be easier this year. I think it eases up significantly now with New Orleans coming up and then Arizona and then Jacksonville at home for the 49ers. But you got to win these division games. It's the ones that the 49ers didn't win last year. And Purdy has now won 4 in a row in Seattle. It just happens the only division game the 49ers did win last season was against these Seattle Seahawks. It was 36-24 right here at Lumen Field. So they get it again, and it's not easy. Purdy's the winningest quarterback in NFL history playing road games here in Seattle, where it does get very loud. And I thought that he managed the crowd extremely well, used his legs well, and performed again behind. It's not all on the 49ers offensive line. It's a lot of this, and that's obviously tied to the O-line, but a lot of it, the run game struggles, the schematics of Mike McDonald put the 49ers in a position where Purdy was pressured on 59% of those dropbacks. And he still, amidst the noise, amidst the pressure, he found Christian McCaffrey. I mean, I got to mention this. I've taken a lot of heat the last couple of days for telling you guys that Christian McCaffrey was likely to play because I'm actually plugged in and I know what's going around the 49ers building. A lot of people just doom and gloom. Christian McCaffrey's not going to play. I'm sure they're going to forget everything that they wrote, everything that they tweeted at me, all these articles, now that Christian McCaffrey put up over 140 all-purpose yards and was the 49ers' leading receiver with 9 receptions in this game. Purdy plus McCaffrey against a lot of pressure as that dump-off, as that check down, right, if you will, the outlet for Brock Purdy, that was huge in this game. Brock knows where Christian is going to be. Christian knows when Brock is going to need him, and it leads to big-time clutch nails conversions even when the 49ers are shorthanded offensively. They've got a really good quarterback. They've got an all-world running back weapon in Christian McCaffrey, and they found a way to win a tough divisional game, even with all the problems that they had on special teams with their kicker. And even though there were some instances in the first half where the defense, with Upton Stout in particular, where Seattle was picking on the rookie a little bit, but the 49ers were able to overcome here in the Pacific Northwest. So what's on tap? Well, tomorrow, Kyle Shanahan is going to speak. We're going to have his conference call. We're going to find out how the MRIs for George Kittle and Jawan Jennings have gone. We'll find out if there are any other injuries coming out of this game. It was a war out there. A lot of the 49ers a little bruised in that locker room, but they are 1-0, so they share first place in the NFC West. This is a sprint. I mean, NFL seasons are marathons and sprints simultaneously. They got to get ready for a longer trip to New Orleans. Maybe they sign Kendrick Bourne at some point over the next couple days, and the season is going to roll on. We talk about the 49ers defense and the need to develop over the course of this season. Even though they played better than expected today, there's still a lot of development left ahead of this team. Robert Saleh is a big addition to the 49ers, and he can continue rounding this defense into form over the course of this season. Just a spoiler, I think I'm probably going to pick the 49ers to beat the Saints. Nick Bosa's giving me a little bit of a hard time in the locker room. I deserve it. I picked the Seahawks to beat the 49ers. I was wrong on that one, but I think that the 49ers' overall prognosis, prospects for this 2025 season are brighter than ever before because of where the defense is at. Now they've got to figure out special teams. I will cover everything that they do on that side of the ball very, very closely over the course of this week. And we already know they've got a great quarterback in Brock Purdy who lived up to the contract today, playing some hero ball to win the game. We know that Jake Tonjes can get the job done now because he did for the 49ers, unheralded hero. And we know that Christian McCaffrey is indeed awesome. And Ricky Pearsall, yeah, he's a dude. But we already knew that through training camp. If you'd been paying attention, then that would have been apparent. Your homework right now is to go check out the San Francisco Standard inside the 49ers locker room after a gutsy instant classic win in Seattle. This is ready for you right now. Link is in the description. I'll pin it up in the comments section. So everybody, check it out. I'm going to sign off from Seattle, where you could even see the field here at Lumen Field. Good stuff, right? All right, everybody, take care. Have a good night. 49ers are 1-0. We'll talk to you very soon.